Welcome to Study Basics, day 3 of 5. So we've been defining study here as the process of taking information to repeat it for evaluation. Get info, spit it out, get a grade. Yesterday I asked you this question: when studying or working on a project, how do you best organize the information that's going to be on the test? Then I asked, what's the worst way you organize the information? Yesterday was all about organizing the information. Today's step 2 will be about prioritizing the information. Answering the question, how many points is this worth? Let's say the test coming up, you know 70% of the test is going to be on the textbook. Let's say 70 questions are on the textbook. And then you also know 30% of the test is going to be on the lecture notes. With just this information, if I ask you, where are you going to study 70% of the time and then where are you going to study 30% of the time, you'd probably say, well, 70% on the textbook and then 30% on the lecture notes, which would make sense. But when we dig a little deeper and find out more about the test, we find out that only 30% of the points are going to be on the textbook. Say these are all multiple choice. And then we know 70% of the points are going to be from the lecture notes, and these are fill-in questions. So 70 multiple choice and then 30 fill-in. But out of that 70 for the multiple choice, that's only worth 30% of the grade. But then out of that 30 out of the fill-in, that's going to be worth 70% of the grade. So when I ask you this question now, where are you going to focus 70% of your time, energy, and effort, and then where are you going to focus 30% of your time, energy, and effort? It would make sense to study 70% of the time on the lecture notes and then the other 30% of the time on the textbook. So the priority would be around the lecture notes, and then the second priority would be around the textbook. You might be surprised that even when students know this, they'll still look at the quantity of questions and spend way too much time on something that's worth far less versus spending that time on a higher priority, something that's worth far more. So step 1 was to organize the information. Step 2 is to prioritize the information. So what you're going to do here is study on what will get you the most points for the least effort. Going back to our example, if it's equally as challenging or if it's equally as easy to study the textbook or study the lecture notes, then the most points for the least amount of effort would be the lecture notes. So after you organize, look at what's going to get you the most points for the least effort. Today's questions: when studying or working on a project, how can you best study on what will get you the most points for the least effort? And then ask yourself, what's the worst way to do this? After that, compare and contrast, and you're on your way to step 3. Of course, this basic training is just a tip of the iceberg. If you're open and willing to trying more powerful tips and strategies to becoming a highly effective, highly efficient, ninja-like student, see you inside FastStudySkills.com.